You've tuned into the Rev Up Podcast, broadcasting straight from Ducati Sanford in sunny central Florida. We're not just talking motorcycles, we're diving deep into the brilliant minds of business leaders, entrepreneurial pioneers, speed demons on the track, influential game changers, and downright rad people crushing this game called life. Let's rev up.
Welcome to the Rev Up Podcast. I'm Nate, and we got Ducati Dave here. We have a very special guest today, Miguel Hernandez. He is with Motovida Apparel and Eyeview Marketing. He's a local business owner here and out of Lake Mary, Florida, right? Longwood, Florida. And he's a really good customer and family member at Ducati Sanford, and he's got some pretty interesting stories, and we wanted to get him on the pod and kind of learn a little bit more about him and just have a cool conversation. So welcome to the pod.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
We reach out with it.
Yeah, reach all the way over. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So this is like our fourth one. You know, we're kind of moving in, getting better and better. Sets changing and stuff like that. So hopefully you enjoy yourself. But yeah, thank you for coming on. And basically the way we do it and kind of tell your story a little bit and how you got into motorcycles as well as how you got into your business and the way you do stuff. So you got into motorcycles as a kid, about 9 years old?
Yeah, it was different. I came from a background with nobody riding motorcycles except literally my great-grandfather in Cuba.
Right.
My parents are Cuban and they're immigrants. They came here in the 50s. And my grandfather had a Indian motorcycle, 1948 Indian.
Wow.
And he had a 1952 Harley. So my grandfather was a medical rep for Procter & Gamble in Cuba.
Really?
So yeah, that's what he did.
Amazing.
Believe it, in Cuba, they had everything just like the United States.
Yep.
Basically without English before, Fidel Castro took over. So my grandfather was a really big motorcycle guy, but my dad wasn't.
Yeah.
He just wasn't. So I kind of inherited that gene from him. So coming here, living, my parents immigrated. I was born here in the States. I got into motorcycles by luck. I always had a bicycle, I was raised humble.
Yeah.
But they got me this used Schwinn, and it had like this shifter in the middle with a speckly, sparkly seat. I don't know if it was a girl's seat, but that's what it came with.
Like the bike that Pee Wee Herman had in Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
It's a Schwinn steam.
I don't know what it was, but my dad bought it at a garage sale for me, and I don't know if I had a girl's seat on it, but it was
normal.
But what I remembered about the bike, it had this sparkly little seat on it.
Yep.
And I got made fun with it, but I loved that bike. So finally, after I tore it up to pieces, jumping little wooden ramps with it, we had this place called Big Wheel, and it was a lawnmower shop. And it was right down. I was raised in Forest City in Altamont. It's still to this day you go there and it's a time capsule. Wow. From one section to the other. They haven't built anything, same buildings. You're in a time capsule from the 60s in there in the 70s. So I went over there and Jim, who ran Big Wheel, had red lines, BMX.
BMX bike.
Your kind of field, your forte. Of course, I couldn't afford anything like that, but my dad eventually got me one, and it was really hard for them, but I got a BMX Mongoose. It was my dream bike.
My first bike too.
But I grew out of it, and one day I go in there to get my chain adjusted and all that. Sure and behold, there's this Kawasaki KD100, this little motorcycle, but I just fell in love with this thing, but it didn't run.
Yeah.
But he was just like, well, I'll trade you your BMX for that bike and $100. So, my dad didn't know, so I start rolling it to the house. My dad's a mechanic, and he's like, what the hell is that? And I go, it's a motorcycle. And he goes, do you know how to ride it? No. And he goes, well, we'll start it up. Oh, it doesn't run. Oh, my God. He goes, so let me get this straight. I buy you a BMX Mongoose that you drove me crazy for years, and now you have this motorcycle. So he didn't know how to work on it, but Dwayne next door was a painter for those billboard signs, and he knew how to work on it. And sure enough, we took the head off, and we got it to work, and all hell broke loose. It was a 3-speed.
Oh, yeah.
And here I am. I got on it, and it was like, my hairs will stand up, so it's like natural.
Yeah.
I got on that bike. I didn't have a helmet.
Right.
So, back then it was garage sales after yard sales, and I found a helmet, a Bell.
Yeah, Bell
for
helmet.
$10.
Yeah, probably was
Put
too
it on.
big,
Yeah,
right?
it's
It was
probably too big.
Yeah.
The fuzz was coming out of the lining. It's what I could afford. But I had a Kawasaki KD100 bike, and I would just run up and down this neighborhood. And finally, Mr. Parks across the street couldn't stand me with that loud two-stroke KD100. Well, he knew I loved the bike. I raised so much hell, he called the sheriff's department on me. I almost got in trouble. My dad got warnings.
Yeah.
But then one day, Mr. Parks, as life will tell you, he just made it difficult for me.
Yeah.
But one day he got injured. He was a retired man. So I said, hey, I'll tell you what, this guy bought every year a freaking brand new Lincoln Continental, and he had to wash it with that zip wax.
Oh,
You
yeah,
pour
yeah.
it into the
Yep.
bucket. And I'm sitting there and I said, I'll tell you what, Mr. Parks, I'll wash your car every Saturday morning and dry it if you just lay off of me riding my motorcycle. That's how much I wanted to ride
Yeah,
this
yeah,
bike.
yeah.
And sure enough, he looked at me and he bargained with me and he goes, all right. Well, years went by. He knew it. We got to be very good friends. I actually went to his funeral about 10 years ago. He's a really good man.
Yeah, yeah.
He ended up buying me literally a brand new KX80.
No way.
KX85.
85, yeah.
He bought it brand new, and that's how I got into motorcycles. And that was it.
That was it. You were hooked.
It was like venom inside of me, and it was the good venom. I
Right.
couldn't get away from it. But my mom was very against me having motorcycle. I wrecked into the house. I lived on a lake. I would build a ramp and go right into the lake, come out with it and waterlog the bike.
Oh, yeah.
I was just nuts, and I couldn't get away from it, man. And finally, when I got into my older ages, 18, I said, hey, I want a Ninja, because I had a Kawasaki.
Right.
I didn't even know anything about Ducatis or any other bikes. And she's like, if you get a motorcycle here in this house, I'm going to have to let you kick you out of the house.
Yeah.
And I went idle with the motorcycles until I moved out and got married.
Really?
And that was it. I couldn't have a motorcycle in their house. They just would not allow
But you
me.
never let it go in the back of your head.
No, it was really depressing because all my friends had bikes, but I had to respect my parents. When you come from a household like I was,
Oh, yeah.
they were
Strict.
very strict.
Yeah.
So I got into getting a Harley, and Harley after Harley after Harley.
So your kid and the motorcycles get retired for a little bit. At that point, you're growing and you are looking to start your own company or business.
Yeah,
And we want to talk about your business too. So I guess we can.
I graduated in healthcare, so I got into healthcare. I ran nursing homes, geriatric nursing homes, and I got burnt out of that. Back in the late 2000s, I just said I'm done with this. I don't want to do it. So I took a sabbatical for a month, and a buddy of mine who owned a building happened to have a printing company in there that he bought in a fire sale. And I said, hey, I got an idea. I can print medical record forms. And it just started with that.
Oh, really?
So then I started taking all my hobbies, shooting,
Yeah.
cars. I started printing.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into it, literally by accident. I mean, I didn't even know how to push a copy button.
Right.
But I got
So
into
you learned it and did all that?
And it just evolved, and I took all my friends, like, what do you do now? I go, I'm printing. They're like, well, I got stuff you can print. And all these health care accounts that I knew, they were like, hey, can you print this for us? Can you do this for us? And it just kept going.
Growing.
And I got lucky.
Yeah.
I got very blessed, and that's how I
cool.
got into printing.
Okay.
And by the way, he does all of our shirts for the
and
store.
Then I
right?
started doing apparel,
Yep.
which I knew nothing about. And literally, God's been good to me and the people that I've been surrounded with. And it just, my wife was like, you went to college and you did all this healthcare, and now you're printing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's, I can work with more people.
Right.
I got out of all the politics and healthcare. Working in geriatric care and you work in nursing
rough.
homes, it's a very unique situation. You see a lot of life and death, and you see things that you don't want to see anymore. And after 16 years doing that, I was ready for a change. And here I am, and I'm enjoying it. It has its up and downs. But, I really enjoy it, though. It gives me more time to be with my family. It gives me more time to do things like this.
Yeah.
And that's how it came about. And you're probably always, whoever's wondering how I got into Ducatis.
Well, yeah, that was the next thing. Well, first, yes, how you got into Ducatis, because that leads into Motovida too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, how did you...
Yeah, cool. So everyone has been seeing your Motovida apparel.
We share it.
We share it.
Yep.
We wear the shirts. We see a lot of the guys in our DOC wearing the shirts. You see it all over.
We support you.
So, how did that come about, and what exactly is that? Can you kind of fill us in there?
It actually goes back when I was a kid, and I'll get into the point of how you guys helped me with Motovida, because Motovida means motorcycle life in Spanish.
Yeah.
And then I gave it a slogan of life on two wheels. I always believe that, everything to me is connected with a motorcycle. For some reason, it is. It gives me a sense of freedom and disconnect. When I'm stressed out, I get on a bike
Yeah.
and I get away.
Yep.
So with Motovida is I wanted to do not just an apparel company. I wanted to create a culture. I wanted to connect with the community, with everybody around. That was on two wheels. And I came up with the name, and I was on board. I started it in 2020.
Yeah, and then you ran into some problems.
I ran into some problems. I told Dave about it. I had
Yeah.
a guy that just fictitiously took my name. Some guy out of, I think, near Mexico said it was his name.
Right.
Well, thousands of dollars later with an attorney. One day I'm walking into the gym. He calls me and he goes, "Hey, you got your name back. The guy was a fraud.
I remember, yeah.
And you're ready to go." And literally, and not long ago, maybe early this year, I really started bringing it out. You all were very
Ramping it up,
supportive.
yeah.
Nate was like, "Hey, what's Motovida?" And I started producing the shirts. I brought in some people. I got the biggest support was you guys.
Yeah.
Helping me push the name out there, and everybody was like very supportive. So I started telling people about it. They started grabbing some shirts, and here I am today. It's growing.
Yeah.
I'm really making it grow as much as I can. The only thing is that it's tough because you have a lot of competitors out there.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of motorcycle competitors, and you have to tread softly how you do that.
Correct.
What I like mostly about it is that people really connect to it. They
Right.
they enjoy it.
Yeah.
They enjoy it, and we have a lot of things for the future coming.
Yeah, nice.
It's just going to take some time, and I'm in baby steps right now. But the most important thing is I have a good following now, and with Sky Power Sports and Ducati Sanford, you all have been an immense help for us.
I appreciate that.
We really have appreciated everything that you guys do. The events were always hits, and now with our new website that's going to be launched in January, it's a completely revised new website, has a lot of new features. Like literally, you can talk to my website and say, "Hey, I'm a size medium. What do you offer in black?" And it'll just bring everything up.
Oh, that's cool.
Has a lot of AI in it.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, that's
So
amazing.
we're really excited about that. But yeah, and Motovida is, a big part of my life now. Eyeview will always be there because it runs itself, but Motovida is like a big baby.
Passion project.
It really is. And I'm going to continue working on it. I have my children, my kids, I want it to be literally for them as well.
Yeah.
They enjoy it.
They're a
I'm
big part of
I'm
it.
not going to say that they're going to always do it, but
Right.
I
Well,
want
hopefully.
them to be part of it.
Yeah.
I
really
can
do.
see that comes through in like the things you post on your social media. You can see you include your family, and it's very
Oh yeah.
Family oriented.
yeah, it's a family oriented brand, and not just a lifestyle brand or motorcycle brand. It's a very family dynamic there that is it's special. A lot of companies don't focus on that, and I think it's
No.
super important.
Well, again, like I said, it's life on two wheels. I don't want it to be just an apparel thing.
Right.
I want it to be a culture. I want literally people that if they wear our shirt, we appreciate the sale.
You give back.
But we want people to know that it's literally you're wearing what you represent. Like when you ride a bike, we try to put something on there that whatever you ride, you're representing it.
Correct.
That's basically what Motovida is, and we don't want it to just be locally. We want it to be internationally. And it's funny that we're talking about this because I got pictures from Quick Shifter, and he's from, I can't pronounce the name correctly, her Hemrenby, Germany.
Yeah,
so
Germany.
he took pictures from Germany and sent me. He's wearing my shirts from Germany.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
I've got a guy named Danny that he's in Medellin, Colombia, and he's wearing my shirts. So they take pictures in their country and send that, and I feel very honored that my shirt, a small little guy in Longwood, my shirts are being worn in other countries right now, and they love them. They really do. But again, it's going to take some more time. I'm literally an amateur at this right now, learning. And when I surround myself with good people and people like yourselves supporting me, talking about it, it really makes me feel humble and blessed.
That's cool.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
So let's kind of talk about how you found us and the Ducati Sanford story.
So there's a funny one with that.
There's that's unique because coming from always riding Harley Davidsons and not having a sport bike, in 1987 I was at my sister's house. True story. She lived on Princeton Street in Orlando.
Yeah.
And I'm riding with my brother-in-law on his Ford Ranger. That's how much this impacted me with
God.
Ducati.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling up to a light, and here's Princeton and Virginia Drive. And I see this beautiful yellow motorcycle.
Okay.
It
wasn't red.
It wasn't red, but it just popped out at me. And I pull up to the light, And the guy looks at me, and I look at him, and I go, man, that is the most beautiful motorcycle. He goes, it's not a motorcycle. This is a Ducati. He was
He's
serious.
not wrong. Yeah, he's not wrong.
He goes, and we're at the light, and I go, I wish I could see. He goes, well, I'm going to pull over so you can see it. So we pull over, and my brother-in-law, Danny, he's a redneck. He's like, oh, what the hell's a Ducati?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I want to see this. And the guy goes, son, he literally looked at me, he goes, son, he goes, this is a hand-built motorcycle.
Yes.
And he goes, and there's nothing like a Ducati. So then, of course, I'm like, well, where can I get one? He goes, he just laughed at me. And he's like, it takes a while to get one of these. You know, because they were,
Back
I don't
then,
even know what it
especially.
was. I don't know if it was what was it back in 1988? What kind of Ducatis were there? It was a super bike.
Well, they had the Super Sport. They always had their monster style, which is the naked, and then they had their super bike styles. So they've always been. Back then, it would have been like the 916, the 749,
It had a square
stuff like
light
that.
in the front.
Yeah.
A big square light, but it was just stunning.
Yeah.
And that stuck in my head forever.
Yeah.
So I thought in my head I can only have Harleys. And I had Harley after Harley after Harley. So one day I told my wife, I'm like, that's it. There's a Ducati dealership in Sanford. She's like, oh God, because she knows.
Yeah,
I
she
started
knows the
getting in a
story, yeah.
tangent. It's going to be something. So I come in your dealership. I didn't know David at that time, but I'll get to that in a moment. So I walk in, and there's this young kid. He's wearing this blue shirt, and it says Sky Power Force. I'm like, is this a Ducati dealership? And it was. You guys were just apparently opening up. So I come in, and there's in the corner this Super Sport, because that's all I thought. Everybody's like, hey, be careful what you get. This is a perfect bike. So I go in there, and instantly, I want the bike. I want the bike, and I bought the bike. And I didn't know anything about it. No one really kind of briefed me about the bike, because I was so impatient of getting it.
Yeah.
So I take it home, and I didn't have a great experience. Okay. Don't take this wrong, but I'm going to get to why this turned out to be a good relationship. I just didn't feel the camaraderie. They're telling me, hey, this is what's part of the bike. This is what you got to do. It was just like I don't think the guy knew a lot about the bike either.
Yes.
So anyway,
that was when we first opened.
Yes,
correct.
Public service announcement.
Yeah.
We're getting our bearings here.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yes.
Let's say.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll get to that,
Okay.
and I'll tell the public why. So I buy the bike. So I was a little bit disgruntled. I felt like a moron buying a fast bike. I didn't really know a lot about it.
Right.
So at that time, I heard rumors that there's some change coming. He was coming, and things are going to change because there's the lady that runs finance, Jamie, told me, hey, look, just don't let that affect you. I called. That's who I was talking to.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Nate at the time, so I buy the bike. I got mad, and I sold it. I went back to Seminole Harley, and I sold the bike, and I bought another motorcycle, and then I never rode it. I was so angry, but it stayed in my mind. And then as I'm calling, I'm finding out that you're there, and I went and bought it. I went to iRide in October when my wife went traveling. I didn't even tell her. So they had this V4 2019 with 900 miles, and I said, I want it. And I want this bike. And I trade in my bike, and I swipe my car, and I take this bike home. And I couldn't even ride it. So they trailered it to my house and didn't even tell my wife. I hid it in the garage, covered it up. And I didn't want to tell her because that'd be the second. Because then she's like, okay, now I know you're nuts when I met you, but now I know you're really nuts because you buy a Ducati, you sell it, get a Harley, and you sell it and buy another Ducati. So, but when I went to your dealership, in the front, there was this absolute masterpiece motorcycle that I could never quit. And I never obsessed that much about a bike, but it was a V4R. Okay. And it was right in the front, and just sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, what would be a dream to own a motorcycle like that? I read about it. It was supposed to be the fastest thing on the planet, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm in St. Augustine.
Okay.
Vacation. It is 2020.
Yep.
November. I never forget this. So Miami had a used 2019. I'm sitting in my my bed and breakfast in St. Augustine. I'm looking at him, and I called, and I go, I'm going to call Ducati Sanford one more time. And he picks up the phone, and he goes, hey, how you doing? And I go, hey, my name is Miguel, and I bought this. He goes, oh, yeah, I kind of heard a story about that. He goes, what's going on, man? I go, well, I got this 2019 V4, and it has everything done on it.
It was all carbon fiber.
Yeah,
it had a bunch
the
of
guy
stuff on
did
it. It was
everything
super
to
nice.
it.
It was super clean.
So I went to to David, and David's like, so what's up, man? What do you want to do? And I said, well, I know this sounds crazy, but I want to buy that V4R. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah, no problem. So he's like, just come in when you can and let me know. So this is a true story. After I had my first experience, David was off that day. I kind of walk in and there's this tall guy sitting behind the counter. I don't know who he was. And he's like, what can I do for you, sir? And he goes, I'm going to buy that V4. And he goes, oh, you're not going to buy that. That's too much motorcycle for you. You don't want that. You want a super sport. And I'm like, I felt like saying, I already had one, a super sport, and I want that bike. So after that day happened, I called David back and I go, look, I can't get. He goes, what are you talking about? And I go, can't get it. He goes, the guy told me, he goes, from now on, just talk to me. That's what David said. Just talk to me. So I'm not going to mention the salesman's name, but at the end of the day, you know, I go in there and sure enough, David's like, I'm going to make this happen for you. We're going to make this work. So it was COVID.
Yeah.
It's a 2020 V4R. My luck, there's rebates on this bike. And next thing you know, I own this pipsqueak, which I call myself, a 2020 V4R. Mm-hmm. That's really my first Ducati because I never rode the 19.
Nope, you didn't.
And I never rode the
Super Sport.
Sport. So my first Ducati is a 2020 V4R. And it was really humbling because honestly, he really went through hoops to get me that bike. And, you know, back then in COVID, things weren't really moving. A lot of things were happening. It was different. Mm-hmm. But sure enough, I got the bike and then it became an addiction. Because coming into the dealer, there was so much dynamics going on. I saw all this positive energy. I mean, from parts and service, and then even a volunteer that works there was helping me, and it just kept going. And you know, he was like, "Hey, don't ever think anything. If you really want something, we're gonna find it." And in COVID, it was hard to find parts, so I literally absolutely drove everybody. And that's when everybody started knowing who Miguel was, because I was antsy about stuff, and everybody knows me. If I see something, I want to get it, and I want to expedite the shipping. And David's like, Miguel, we're really trying to find these parts for this bike, but it's just hard right now. But here's the good news. You got the bike, and the bike came with rear sets. I mean, I could go on all day.
Yeah, it was done.
And I still own the bike.
Yeah, to this day.
916 miles are on it, but I still own it. It's 4 years old, but I literally adore that motorcycle, and it's sentimental because I bought it on my dad's birthday.
Correct.
On December the 1st. So how many bikes afterward? Not 22 bikes later.
Yeah, 22 bikes.
Well, I appreciate the transparency in the story. I like the story because it shows that, you know, we were able to overcome a lot of just kind of the beginning stages of opening a company. You go through different trials and tribulations, and it's never easy to kind of get your feet off the ground. And you go through team changes. You're in the swirl, right? Mm-hmm. Trying to get your processes dialed in and build your clientele and do the right thing, but you don't always get it right. So there's often times where you fail, but we learn from those opportunities. And I think we've been able to really step up and continue to evolve and get better and better and better. And we still have a lot of work to do. I mean, we still have a ways to go, but we're going to always be trying to elevate our business and do a better job and go to the next level.
I think what sets, you know, from my experience, I don't know about all the other customers and people that walk in, I don't feel like when I walk in there, I'm walking into a dealership. I'm very comfortable going in there. You know, I always felt that everybody would literally go out of their way to make something happen for me. Yeah. As much as a pain in the ass that I am, you know, but everybody would really.
Well, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to. It goes back to what you were saying when you were working on Motovida, is build a community and build this family. So my little thing was, I always saw, and we've been in dealerships for a long period of time, and I've always seen how customers walk in and they either feel overwhelmed or insecure, or you know what I mean, and they don't feel like they're welcome into places. You know, sometimes people 100%. Don't say anything to them. Some people are hound them. You know what I mean? So trying to find that fine line was really difficult, right? Yeah. And everybody's different. You can't treat you the same way you treat Billy Joe Jim Bob, right? So when I was doing this, I said, I got to do it and make the people feel like the way I want to feel like when I walk into a place. So building a family and building a culture and building this thing was something that he allowed me to do, which most owners don't let you do. It's, look, this is how you have to do business, and I know that it's the right way to do things, but it's also not. You also have to adapt to the world and adapt. You can't be that used car salesman. I hated that. I've always hated that. If I can achieve this for you, will you do this? No, that's not what it's about. If you make somebody feel comfortable, they'll come back.
Well, one thing I can say about your dealership, I've never been pressured to buy anything. And I really can tell you, I have never, ever, both sides, Sky, Ducati Sanford, never have been pressured. Basically, it's like, okay, you don't want it? No big deal. No pressure. But the difference that I feel over there at Ducati Sanford than any dealership that I've ever bought a motorcycle is that when I buy something, I really feel like when I ride out of there, I feel like I'm a part of something.
Right.
I get follow back. I get feedback. Hey, man, how'd you like it? It's not like I bought it and that's it.
Do you like taking the pictures? Do you like taking the pictures? Because some people like it, some people don't.
You get pictures taken and you feel, and then 3 weeks later, a month, they're mentioning you. Hey, he's part of us. We really appreciate it. You don't get that. Look, I'm not knocking anything where I've been before. You get a picture taken, you're done.
Yeah.
Right.
You're done. You're gone. Now, when you walk in, the red carpet is rolled out.
Well, we do a reverse osmosis where we're not going to pressure you to purchase, but then you're going to turn and pressure us to sell you something.
Right.
It's hilarious. You know what? It's actually hilarious.
Right.
That's actually correct.
Right.
It's like, no big deal, Miguel. If you don't want it and you walk out and you're like, I really want that thing now. I want that bike.
Right.
Because somebody else is going to get it. And maybe like you're saying, the psychology is like, don't worry, Miguel. It's no pressure, but I'm sure somebody's going to buy it. I mean, they don't really last that long. And then you're like, oh no, I want that bike.
Sell me that bike.
Yeah, and it's really cool. But again, going back to that red carpet thing is like, I always felt that I got red carpet when you're just going to buy something. I go in there probably twice a week, maybe sometimes more to your dealership, and there's always something new, clean, and hey, did you see this? But it's not like, oh, you got to get rid of what you got. You got to buy this.
Right.
I never get that feeling.
Right.
It's like, no, in fact, it's like, no, I really think you should just hold on to that. Hold on to it for a while. Think
Enjoy
about it. Nothing pressured like, no, you got to get rid of it. Of course, everybody wants to sell you something, but I don't get that vibe there.
Right.
It's like, hey, Miguel, look, now.
It's your clubhouse. It's your clubhouse. It's a place to come in and feel comfortable. And
I think it's more than a clubhouse. It's actually a place it's therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds kind of stupid, whoever's listening to this, but I go there and sometimes I might be having a bad day. Like, I don't want to be in my building. I don't want to deal with anybody. But I go over there and Nate will come up. Hey, what's going on? You'll come up. Hey, what's going on? I'll talk to, and it's not just you guys. It's everybody. Yeah. And if people can really hear me, and I don't know about the other people that have been on this show, it is a really good place. People really treat you good there. I've never been treated like, I'll go to parts. I get a handshake, sometimes a hug. I'll go into the back, which is very rare to walk back there. If they're working on my bike, you'll walk me back. Hey, look at the mechanic. Even the mechanics, they're like, hey, Miguel, I'm doing this to your bike. It's a whole different. If people are listening and you really want to have, not to sell the dealer, like they'll tell you, and I'll say it now, it makes no difference to me. I can tell you, I've been around the block and I've owned a lot of bikes. It's a different experience. So you can go a lot of places, and you can be a number, or you can be family at Ducati Sanford, and I mean that.
I appreciate that.
That's a lot of work, and not for nothing. You don't get that in 3 years or 3.5 years for nothing. You just don't.
Right.
And I was blown away. I mean, I was surprised when you let me in that day, and they announced it, but. It wasn't really like a shocker.
Yeah.
No, we were glad that you were able to be a part of that.
Yeah, it wasn't like a shocker because, you guys, you bust your ass in there to make people feel good. Everybody has their days. Not everybody's going to be completely happy. I get sometimes irritable because I'm a baby and I want things there. Like I'm like sometimes don't understand the dynamics of how long it takes to get apart.
But you do make it fun. You really do make it fun and interesting.
Not all the time.
You are probably one of the ones that come in that you make it fun. You make it interesting. You see things and you're like me when it comes to customizing. You want to do things and you want to do it different than other people have done. And I always dig that with you because I get tired of seeing the same stuff. You know what I mean? And I like when we venture out and try different things, like your scrambler now. It looks really nice. And I know that it didn't go the way you wanted it to all the way, but it still looks really amazing. I can't wait to see the X Diablo S that you're doing now. All your bikes have, your personality to them. Yeah. And they're not like half-assed done. They are literally, they're done tasteful. And they're not overdone, which I dig that. I dig that a lot.
We've done some pretty cool projects there.
We have.
And another part of I don't want to make it just a part of me. It's my family, my kids.
Oh, they come in.
My two boys. They love that. They run around, and I hate to say it, they kind of do what they want. They'll get inside of a side by side.
They're more than welcome.
They get into a slingshot, and they even talk about it in school. And they love their gas bikes. They love their Suzukis. I mean,
and they get these little motorcycles, the little Ducatis.
Yeah, this place, for some reason, riding motorcycles for so long, it changed my life a lot. Yeah. And I mean that sincerely. It changed me the way how I do my daily activities. People know where I'm at. Hey, if you can't find Miguel at work, it's probably at Ducati Sanford. Right?
The gym or Ducati Sanford?
Or Ducati Sanford. Yeah. And,
it's true.
I'm so blessed to know so many good people there that have changed a lot about me, and I can be here all day talking about it, but I personally believe that it comes from the top, from people like you that do that, and it just filters down, and it really made. I mean, think about it. You've only been open 4 years?
Yeah. Well, it's a very interesting conversation because from your first experience, which wasn't so good, we were able to. You gave us a second chance. So think of all the customers that may come into your business or have that first experience and it not go so well, and then you never see them again, right? Because they had that bad experience. Yeah. But I've always been a believer in turn your L's into lessons here. So we were able to, luckily, get you back in the door, and now it's like flourish into this beautiful relationship, and it's like it's been magic.
Yeah.
So
it really has.
like you kind of got to look at that. The next time you go into a place and things don't go quite as you
give it a chance.
You hope, maybe you need to give it a second chance.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to try, and not just be so like stand firm and like walking out the door, blowing out, and just never giving them opportunity. True. And because things can change, things can happen.
Yep. And everybody has a good day and bad day.
It takes a few people, because he could have blew me off. He could be like, "Hey man, okay, but it was a mission of, think about it. It's not about being arrogance, but not everybody, me, even for myself, to buy a certain type of motorcycle. When you go to Ducati, you're not buying a normal thing. You're buying an exquisite product.
Right.
And I keep telling this to a lot of people here that don't understand. Maybe they don't understand. When you come into to buy a Ducati or, a high-end thing like that, it takes a lot of work to sell something like that. And I don't look at it as selling. It's a life-changing thing. They're not the cheapest things in the world, but they're very exquisite. They're hand-built. There's like one thing he did put really well once, and I never thought of it. They have soul to them.
They do.
Because I've jumped the fence both. I have the BMW M1000RR, and that bike was beautiful, and I was on that hype. But, and where it really turned for me is when he said to me, I've had remorse sales.
Yep.
I bought a lot of bikes and sell them, and then I got buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
But one that really stuck to me is, and he told me, he's like, listen, you're going to get rid of your SP, the black, because I hated flat black.
He did. He got one of the first SPs.
And he's like, you're going to regret that. And I go, no, I'm not. And I bought the BMW and all that. But then one day he called me back and he said, this is another good story for the dealer, is that he goes, I found you an SP2. And I'm like, and he goes, and then I said, no, I'm going to give it a second chance.
Yeah.
To me now, it's my favorite motorcycle I own. I love that thing.
It really does.
And I really do love that bike a lot. And I'm glad I got it back. So it was another second chance. Again, I put my faith back into it. No, you're going to like it. And, there's so many stories that I have from mechanics making me an impact, the guys that you have, the detail that they go through. It's inevitable. From finance, your girls in finance, when I walk through the door, they have their doors open. They listen to me. They listen to my BS. And one thing I wanted to say on this show, and I'm glad you brought me, is that I am more than humbly happy that you all won this award. But I'm going to be honest with you. That's a great trophy. But to me, as a business owner and, just a father and a family man with I believe that what's in that deer, you already had a lot of trophies. All of you are the trophies. Because I'm telling you, if it wasn't for what you guys do, there is no way from everybody you wouldn't have that. And you wouldn't, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it, You all are the trophies. Those are the awards that are hanging up there to me. It's when you come in and how you're treated. Because I've been to a lot of dealers, and I'm telling you this from my soul, it's not the same. And if anybody's listening out there, it's not. You will be treated differently at Ducati Sanford than anywhere. And I've been all over Florida. I have pulled into dealerships. I've gone to Georgia. I've gone to South Carolina. I've pulled in. It's not the same. And I really mean that from my heart. It's not. If not, why would a 50-some-year-old man act like a kid wanting to come into a dealer 2 and 3 times a week? Think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Those are amazing words to hear, but we're not done yet. We have we've climbed the mountain. We're on top right now, and we don't want to plateau. We want to go to the next level. And when you go to the next level, it's going to take a lot more effort and creativity, and we got to build even more loyalty with our customers, and we got to get better. I mean, our service department, our technicians are phenomenal, but we need to work on a lot of things there with how we're communicating with customers and just elevating that service experience, front of the house, to have more of a red carpet experience when you're bringing your bike in to have serviced. And there's areas where we have to improve, and it's a focus for 2024.
They should get the same service in the front that they should going into service. So as you come in and purchase the bike, and we do the same for you that we do for everybody that comes in, should have the same effect and the same experience back there.
Well, we just had that happen 2 weeks ago with my friend Sana. Remember the family that came in? Unbeknownst to me, I tried to be a salesman. I said, listen.
No, you bring a lot of people, trust me.
Yeah. So there's a great story for this, if we're going to end this podcast, is that Sana called me, and she's a good friend of mine. She's a waitress at a restaurant that I eat weekly at. And she wanted to buy a motorcycle, and she had an awful experience, like very horrible, where she went. I can't mention the name.
Yeah.
But it was very close by, but she could not believe the way she was treated. So she called me, and I'm like, Sana, why didn't you tell me? Well, what can I do? I want a Honda Rebel. I said, okay, well, let me call a couple of people, and I might be able to find you something. I can't guarantee you they'll have the bike you want. Unbeknownst, I call, and you had a used one there. Yeah, she came in, and we tried. I tried to push her into a scrambler.
Yeah,
because I wanted her to something new.
And me personally, I let you do your thing, but I wanted her to feel comfortable and get what she wanted. But she didn't. She got to ride both.
She did.
So we brought both out, and she still focused and wanted the Honda. Which, listen, as long as she's comfortable and happy, that's all that matters.
You both have no idea, and I told Nate this in a text, how happy you made that family. Not just her dad,
they were amazing.
The mom.
Yeah.
You would think they would have bought 20 bikes. And they literally, she sent me a text. I'm going to go riding with her. She's like, I really can tell you how happy I was to buy that bike over there. And let me tell you, they went through hoops to make that happen for her.
For sure.
And she could not believe, she said, I've never seen any dealer, even her dad who works in this industry.
He works at a car dealership.
He thought that they would have just said, that's it, we can't do anything for it. But it just kept churning and poking and poking. And that girl walked out with that bike. She was crying. She called me. She was so happy. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, whatever. But this is what sets a lot of dealers apart. It wasn't even a big bike purchase, small. But you all would think she was buying. You would think she was buying the most expensive motorcycle in the dealership. That's how much work your staff went through to make this 24-year-old girl happy. Yeah. She couldn't believe it. And let me tell you, there were some hoops to go through that. But that's another story. I mean, you guys could just have rows. There's so many stories, of
we appreciate it,
of people that are getting, and it wasn't even a Ducati, it was a Honda.
Right.
So,
it's true.
I could be here all day telling you, but I'm very grateful to be part of you guys, customer, and what you guys do. And like I said, I would never get complacent. I would just keep going more and more because now the eyes are on you guys.
Oh yeah,
you got that, And they're like, well, how can, I like what one of you said in one of the articles is that who would have thought some town in Sanford, Florida, North and South America. Yeah. Think about that. There's got to be people going, how?
Well, when I was in Italy last year, unfortunately this year they did it on a video conference video conference. I'm meeting all these people that are, bigwigs like California and Portland, which we know very well. But when I went to Italy and I met all these bigwigs, from these different dealerships, and they're asking me where I'm from, and they would look at me like, where is Sanford? I'm like, well, do you know where Disney World is? They're like, oh, you're in Orlando. I go, no, we're about 45 minutes north of that. They go, oh, Daytona. I go, no, we're before that. It's Sanford. And they're like, oh, and I go, never mind. Yeah, we're somewhere in Orlando. We're north of Orlando. So that was the best way to get it. Now, thanks to, what happened in us getting the award, people know who we are now, which is really cool. And I appreciate that because we've worked really hard for that. So,
what was the response after you guys won the award, knowing it's from Sanford, Florida? How do you think, Italy announcing that, which I did see that on how did they respond to you all saying, the small dealership against, it's like David and Goliath. Think about it. I mean, it's a small dealership against California. I mean, it's everywhere. I always said to myself, think about that. That's a huge feat to do. That's like, Tacoma Chevrolet against, the largest Chevrolet dealership all over. I mean, that's huge, man.
Well, I got a lot of good feedback from my kind of dealer buddies, outside of Ducati. I got a ton of calls and congratulations. I mean, it was all over social media. I did get a personal phone call from Omar, the owner of Ducati Miami, to congratulate me, which was cool.
Wow.
So that was nice to know. But we haven't had the opportunity to get together with some of the other Ducati dealers on that level. But I'm sure at the next conference, hopefully we get some kudos. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. A lot of them
called us too.
Oh yeah. Shaheen from Portland. Yeah, from Moto Corsa. Yeah, he was stoked. So we go way back with him.
So you're the first dealer that's ever done that in less than 4 years.
I don't know that for sure.
I'm pretty sure that
probably.
might be. Yeah, that might be because I don't know. Miami's been open for a long time. Most of the places have been open for more than 5 years. I'm pretty sure, but I'd like to know that. I'm glad you brought that up. That's something I'd like to find out.
Yeah.
So,
and we want to keep winning it. Like I said, we want to be like the Jordan era Bulls. We're going to three-peat this thing.
We got the race to 200 starting.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of stuff.
It's going to be pretty cool. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a good talk. And if someone needs printing services or needs T-shirts printed or wants to check out some Motovida apparel, how should they look you up?
All they have to do is you need any kind of printing, any kind of apparel, promotional products, go to eyeviewmarketing.com. And you can also go, if you want any Motovida apparel, go to motovida.net. We have everything in stock. We ship for free. So, check us out. And hopefully we'll have some more new news. And remember, our new website is coming out January the 5th. Please check that website out. It's going to be very, very informative, much easier to use than the existing one that we have right now. And I'm humbled and grateful for these gentlemen to bring me onto this show. And all of you out there, God bless.
Cool. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on our socials, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
And don't forget, Rev Up.
Yep.
Rev Up.
You want the truth. Rev up. Rev up.